Hello, and welcome to my Comp Methods project video. I hope that what I have to say is concise and somewhat interesting and maybe even useful for you in the future in your investing endeavors. So today I'm going to talk about my project where basically what I do is I take three different stocks of different volatility. So I look at one stock with high volatility, one stock with medium volatility, and one safe stock, and I'm going to compare their daily differences or weekly differences to compare their level of volatility. Then I'm going to evaluate the volatile stock. And what I'm going to do with the volatile stock is compare two different investment methods. One method is going to be a buy and hold method. So basically, this is where you buy the stock at the very beginning and then sell at the end of a certain period of time. And next, I'm going to do a buy, predict, and sell method. So basically, based on the previous year's least squared line, I'm going to create a method in which you try to predict when to buy and sell based on certain raises in the stock price and certain dips. And so we're going to compare how much money is made using these two methods in this video. My hypothesis for this project was that the buy, predict, and sell method was going to make more money than the buy and hold method. Now, the reason for this is that with the buy and hold method, you're buying at a certain point, and then as you're holding, the stock continues to grow, and then once it dips, you just take those losses. But with the buy, predict, and sell method, obviously, once you reach a certain peak and sell, once it dips and you buy back, then you continue to make more money. Now, with this method, there does come more transaction fees, but with the amount of money that we're dealing with, I felt that the offset of that, with how much extra money you're making, would offset those management fees and still give you at a make more money than the buy and hold method. And so, obviously, that would be a perfect world that you could perfectly buy, predict, and sell at the right times. And so we're going to look into the method that I used and how that worked out and some of its pros and cons. So getting a little bit into the Matlab of this project. So basically I used the load data from Yahoo project file, which was used throughout the content of the course this year in correlation with the main file. So the main file I set to start taking the data from January 1st, 2015 up until the current date. And so the three tickers that I used for the stocks to get the data from was Netflix, the Royal Bank of Canada, and also the Canadian S&P 500 or VFV.to. And so the frequency by which I got this data was every week. And so moving forward, I began to compare these three stocks and just kind of looking at both their growth and their volatility. So you can see here, this is kind of the growth chart. Basically, they start at 0 from 2015, and then you can see how much they're growing. So you can see Netflix here, of course, has the highest growth, and you can see all its highs and lows. Next, we have the RBC stock, which is also continuously growing and has also a few bumps along the way, and as well as the S&P 500 here, which is the bottom one, which would be considered the safe stock, which kind of has lower volatility. And so, speaking of volatility, this M-file basically analyzes the volatility basically by looking at the rate by which the stock is changing each week. So you can see here on a scale from 10 to 100, this Netflix data is extremely volatile. As an investor, you would be worried with all the peaks and the lows. And then here with RBC, the range is from 0 to 18, so a much smaller weekly price range, so it's not varying as much. And of course, that's medium volatility. And then half of that with our Canadian S&P 500, we have volatility or a weekly price range going from 0 to 9, so a much smaller volatility here. Then I did just a little bit of filtering. So I filtered the three weekly ranges of each stock and then just kind of put them on a chart to kind of compare to scale the difference in volatility. So you can see here again at the top we have the Netflix range, which is quite aggressive and very spiky, and lots of changes and dips and highs and lows. And then we have old consistent S&P 500 here at the bottom, and then in between those we have our RBC stock, which is a little noisier but almost on par with the S&P 500. So this is just kind of an analysis here of the filtered data on the Netflix range. So moving forward, I'm going to just look into kind of these two different methods that I did for predicting. One predicting trying to predict the stock and buying and selling at certain prices, and also the buy and hold. So starting with the buy and hold, this one was pretty straightforward. It was basically making sure I bought the stock at the same date and then holding it for the whole period, and then selling it at the end. So basically here you can see that with an investment of $1,000 in Netflix in 2015, now we have the current value of $6,000, which is quite amazing growth. And then we have on RBC, it will be the same thing, except it would be $1,900, and then the S&P 500 is actually $2,200, so making even more there. And then I just looked at the return on investment, which would basically be the selling price minus the original investment. So we can see here that this is obviously the easiest form of investing. Just buy and hold and watch your stock. And so I just kind of wanted to evaluate this concept that you hear in the market about trying to predict and buy and sell. And for the sake of time, I'll try to go over it quickly. So basically what I did was I took the first year to just evaluate the market. So I took the least squares, I evaluated this curve, and so you can see here in 50 days, the stock went up about $60. So basically what I did was said, okay, here's the rule for year 2. If the stock goes up $60 while holding the position, we sell. And if we are sold and the stock dips by an average of these bottom points here, so this was $10 for year 1. So if the stock dips $10, then we buy. And so we have these, so I analyzed each year and kind of made a rule of thumb for each of those years, and then kind of move forward with that. So I plotted the graphs on top of each other, and so I'll move to the final year, year 7. So you can kind of see here year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, 5, 6, and 7. And so we can see also the red dots is where I bought and sold. And so with this method, it was very tricky because if one year was bad and then the next year was really good, you had a rule of thumb to buy and sell based on the really bad year. So from what I could see, when I knew it was going up, it was kind of like, oh shoot, I'm selling really quick. But this would be obviously you wouldn't see that with that prediction method. And so we can see here this graph kind of just shows each time you sold. So this would be a replication of the bank account each time you sold. and so you make about $4,000. So this, in comparison to my buy and hold method, obviously you make more money on the buy and hold method versus establishing a rule of thumb on buying and selling for the next year based on the least squares of the previous year. So again, that's taking the rise over run for raising $60, and then you would sell, or sorry, you would sell if it went up $60 in year 2, and then you would buy back if the stock dipped $10, because you know it will be going up. And so this was a really interesting method. You can see here the red dots is where I bought and sold. And for the sake of time, I'm just going to look. This M file just kind of analyzes if you were to perfectly predict the market and buy and sell at the exact right times, and obviously you make $25,000. But obviously that is extremely difficult, and it was kind of cool to analyze this rule of thumb and see these final results that, basing it off of the least squares, it wouldn't actually make you more money. So I apologize for the length of this video. This was a really cool project, and I hope that it's interesting and satisfactory. And I hope you the best of luck moving forward, and I hope you have a great winter semester. Thank you.